When you talk about the American issues of what it's like to be poor and homeless in America, and you have people like you mentioned saying we need to put America first. I mean, I get that partially in the same way that, like, on some level, I guess it's sort of like I need to make sure my daughter's school tuition is paid before I start giving money to her friends at school for their tuition. Like, closer to home, make sure that that's taken care of first. But then, there crosses the line where it's like, is it more important for Amelie to have 100 Christmas presents than for one of her friends at school to have clean water to drink? No, it's not. It's not. So when you talk about, like, America, make sure America's okay first, yeah, we need to make sure everybody's has clean water, food here first with our money for our just that seems to make even just organizational sense. To send it elsewhere is more complicated, more expensive. But then when you have an expanded awareness of humanity as a single family, you start seeing through things like national borders as they're just constructs. And that person walking 8 hours a day to get clean water is my sister on a fundamental existential level. You know, getting somebody from economic point 5 to point 6 more important than getting that person from 0 to 1. So the sanitation, the water, that to me is a human issue that supersedes our higher economic level. We need to make sure that everybody can get a great, even education. I don't know. I mean, you're talking about from 0 to 1 survival. It just seems like that should be far more nations' priority. Let's get the world up to level 1 before we're worrying about 8 to 9. We're worrying about our housing bubble. Like, there's people that don't have water. When you see through America not being a real thing, it's just a construct that's held in authority with a military. I love America. I love ideals about it.
This is going to be a very popular episode. In which Science Mike and Michael Gunger slaughter the idol of American nationalism. I love my country, and as much as a country's a thing, I love Harry Potter too.
Yeah.
But they're both just things people made up.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody used our contact form and sent in, why do you guys always say everything's a construct? And I replied, because everything's a construct. The underlying thing may not be, but, like, your belief about it is a construct.
I think I stumbled into water through, a personal experience. I was with a group of doctors and surgeons, and we were in post-war Liberia trying to help people get healthy. At the time, there was one doctor for every 50,000 people living in the country. So if you were sick, you were completely out of luck. And there was such a greater need than our doctors could ever service. We didn't have enough money, we didn't have enough doctors, we didn't have enough time. And, I was scrubbed up documenting these very powerful, life-changing surgeries. But as I went out into the rural communities, I saw kids drinking from swamps. And I had never seen a child drink from a brown, viscous swamp before. In my former life, I was selling $10 bottles of Pellegrino in nightclubs to people who didn't even drink them. And I learned that half of the country didn't have their most basic health need met. Half the country was drinking dirty water. So I kind of put these two things together. Like, no wonder people are sick. No wonder, the doctors have their hands full and many years more people to treat if this most basic need isn't met. So to me, it felt like the question behind the question, and I did a little more digging. And then the deeper you dig with water, it's almost like unpeeling an onion. You learn about the impact of water on education. So at the time, half of the schools in the world didn't have clean water or toilets. So, rather than start charity education and go build more schools, how good could the education be if girls, when they got their period, stayed home? because there was no toilet at the school. There was no clean water. They stayed home in shame. Learned about the huge impact of water on these local economies. And it's primarily through time. When you add up the 40 billion hours that women spend just in sub-Saharan Africa, it is this huge economy. It's more than the entire global workforce of a country like France. And when you're able to give 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours back into the days of these women and children, the economies grow. And there's data behind all this stuff now. 53% of all disease in the developing world is directly caused by water and a lack of sanitation. So you get to play doctor to half of the sick people through the developing world by doing clean water and sanitation. The UN published an 88-page report that found every dollar invested in water and toilets yields 4 to 8 times return to the local economy. So you get to make people 4 to 8 times richer by coming in at this basic need level. What I loved about it, too, is it was just one of the most unifying things. Regardless of politics or race or religion or geography, every single person could stand for clean water. Nobody wanted kids walking 8 hours a day. Nobody wanted kids dying of diarrhea because they were drinking water, with bacteria or leeches in it.
If you're anything like me, at this point in the conversation, you start to feel hopeless. When you contemplate the amount of suffering that happens in our species, in human life today, it is staggering.
It really is. And so far, we're just talking about square one, water. Because even if we solved extreme poverty, it's not like that's the end of the to-do list for us, right? I mean, there are an estimated 100 million, somewhere between 100 million and 200 million girls under the age of 18 that suffer some form of sexual violence every year. Just in the United States, 10 million people a year are physically abused by an intimate partner. 1 out of every 6 American women has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape. Tens of millions of people around the world are slaves of one kind or another, owned by other people, sold like cattle to the highest bidder. In America, over 2 million